back to my channel. So I was asking a couple of people what kind of video they wanted to see next, and my best friend actually said she was interested in why I personally chose home birth, like what made me decide that that's what I wanted and what made our family completely like okay with it. So if you're new here, hi, my name is Kim. We have two boys. One is 3, Grant, and Lincoln is 13 months. And they are just a bundle of energy. But yeah, so, oh wait. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It's totally free. I feel like some people like don't really know that, but it is. It's free. It's totally free. And I try to upload 1 video a week, and leave a comment down below too on videos that you're interested in seeing, and I will definitely try and do those. So let's get into the video. Okay, so I guess I wanted to start out by saying that I wanted to have a home birth like pretty much ever since I can remember. I've always been interested in babies and like pregnancy and birth and all that just stuff. I just wanted to like change the look. Anyways, so I've just always been interested in pregnancy, birth, babies, like that whole kind of stuff like wicked interested me, and I literally could not wait until I was a mother. That was something I really wanted to do. It was kind of like, why isn't there a class in school about this? Like, why isn't there just like a college course on how to be a mother? Like that was just where my mindset was. And when I was younger, my mother and I used to watch that TLC show, A Birth Story, and we would watch it almost every day, like in the afternoon. And I remember seeing those women on that show and how like dramatized it was, but like also not, like just how unhappy they always seemed. They were always crying, and it was just always like yelling and just like, go, 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 get that baby out, push, 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 push. And like, I remember loving the part when the baby was there, but like the part with the actual birth and they showed that, you were always just sort of like, ugh, you know, because it just seemed so just upsetting and not like a beautiful experience. And even though I had no experience at the time, I was just like, there must be like a better way of like delivering. There has to be. Must be a better way to do this. There has to be. So I watched that TV show all the time, and I feel like it just sort of fueled that like there has to be a better way. There were totally birth stories that were completely fine and they were natural and everything was perfect and there was no crying, but there was a lot of fear in that show, I feel like, that they showed. And there was a lot of fear in the women's eyes, and there was a lot of crying and just unhappiness and the sadness when they had to have a C-section, and the sadness when they were trying really hard and like there was no progression. So that fueled my interest. And then I want to say, so I don't know if you ever heard this book, but it's called The Midwife's Apprentice. It's got one of those like Newbery medal things, but I read this, I don't know, it must have been like 4th or 5th grade. It's like kind of, I didn't read it, somebody read it to me, I should say. It's like, let me read the synopsis to you. On a frosty morning, sometime early in the 14th century, in the village somewhere in England, a girl only known as Brat was sleeping in a dung heap. Like, what? You girl, are you alive or dead? When she opened her eyes, she saw an important looking woman with a sharp glance and a sharp nose. This woman was Jane, the midwife, and she needed a helper. Thus begins the funny, wise, compassionate story of the homeless girl who became the midwife's apprentice, a person with a name and a place in the world. So that's what this book is about, is essentially this girl becoming a midwife's apprentice, and it's literally all these stories about this birth or different births that she goes to. And I remember reading this at a young age and just being like, wow, that sounds so awesome. She gets to go and watch births with a cat. Like, I just loved this. And this book is really this is like the first time I ever heard the word midwife. And so that sparked the word midwife, and then watching the birth story really started everything. And then when I actually got older, started learning like more about health and just like your body and all those types of things. I just remember being like, I want to look into a midwife. Like, I want a midwife. But I sort of knew that I didn't want the midwife to be at the hospital. I was like, I don't want to go to the hospital. How could I possibly be comfortable at the hospital? I literally have that like white coat syndrome thing where like I go into the hospital and immediately my blood pressure gets high, my heart rate, goes up. Like, I'm fine, but it's just like part of me. Like, I always just feel so anxious in hospitals, when I totally wouldn't like not go to a hospital if I was really sick or something, or there was an emergency, but I feel like I wouldn't want to go there to deliver or give birth because it's something that's so foreign to me and I just don't feel comfortable there. And I felt like, without even knowing or doing any research, that I wanted to be comfortable giving birth. And if I couldn't be comfortable in a hospital, that's not to say that I don't want to deliver in a hospital or never would. I would totally give it a chance. But this is kind of like where I'm coming from, like before kind of having the experience of birth, if that makes any sense. So as I was getting older and started dating my husband, I was kind of like, what are your thoughts on home birth? And he was like, what the He was like, what is that? No, I don't think I'm comfortable with that. He was sort of like, aren't you supposed to deliver in a hospital? No, like, we're definitely gonna deliver the kids in the hospital. And I was like, I don't know about that. Anyways, but this book, Birth Matters, was the first book I ever read that wasn't a textbook, that was written by a midwife. Like, this was literally the first book I picked up at the local bookstore and read it from cover to cover, sped through it. I want to like show you. Yeah, I highlighted things. It was like I was, in a class. Like, I was just reading and reading and reading. This book was what made me so adamant on having a home birth. And what I knew a home birth was what I wanted and needed and was totally going to have. I feel like if we hadn't had that first home birth, like, I would have been really upset. But I mean, who wouldn't have? Because it's what, it's like what you want. That whole page is essentially highlighted. I'll have everything linked down below that I've mentioned. But that book, Birth Matters by Ina May, was really the book that started it. And then I just, from there, just started reading tons and tons. I have a whole bookcase just dedicated to birth, labor, pregnancy books. That's kind of where it started. And then when my husband and I decided that we were ready to have kids, we really sat down and we were like, is home birth something that we really want to do? Do we want to try this? And he was kind of like, I really want to find a healthcare provider, like a midwife, who I feel comfortable with and who's really going to support us and like make sure that we have a safe birth, even if it's at home. Now, mind you, a lot of people in our family at first were really against it. They were like, what? No, I'm not comfortable with you doing that. We did have a lot of pushback at first, but then once we were like really pregnant and into it, then people were like, you know what? I actually think this might be really good for you. One memory that I have specifically is my mother had this dream that we delivered at a hospital and they mixed up our baby, and she like woke up and like texted me the next morning and was like, I just had this horrible dream that you delivered at a hospital and they switched the baby and it got all confusing. And she's like, I'm so happy you're having the home birth because they won't switch the babies. And just hearing that really made me feel good that she was like supporting us in this, and she was supporting me in my decision. And I think that also helped us like move forward with the home birth idea. And then when we met Sarah, our midwife, I was like, yes, 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 like this is what we need. And then when we actually had the birth and how fast it went and how much I was just coherent and how much my husband was coherent and how much Grant was just so like euphoric in the whole thing. It just was perfect, and it was the best birth ever. Well, so was Lincoln's birth, obviously, but I mean, things could have totally gone wrong, but we prepared for everything as much as we could, mentally and physically. I wouldn't have been able to have a home birth if I wasn't at my healthiest. And that's a big thing that I think a lot of people kind of forget, is that in order to have home birth, you really need to be as healthy as possible. You need to have that low risk pregnancy, that low risk birth, so that things become safe and stay safe. Obviously, you can still have complications if you are the most healthiest person in the whole wide world. Like, you really can't predict anything, but it helps your chances 110% if you start out like with a low, really, these two books were really what started my journey into the interest of home birth and the interest of midwifery. I think fear also may have driven me as well to home birth. Fear of the pressure that a hospital birth could have, with the doctors pushing you to do this or that. C-section, definitely there was fear there. I don't think that hospitals are bad. Like, they're not bad. Some types of care are bad, but hospitals in general are not bad. Doctors in general aren't bad. There are midwives that are bad. There are OBs that are bad. Like, there are nurses that are good. There are nurses that are bad. Like, it's the type of care that you need. Like, there can be bad care and there can be good care, and that doesn't necessarily mean that if you have bad care in this hospital, you're gonna have bad care in their labor and delivery unit. That's not really the case. The case is that you as a person have to go and do that extra 50% to like figure out if this healthcare provider, midwife or doctor, is someone that's really gonna help you have the type of birth that you want, regardless if it's at home or a hospital or a birth center, freestanding birth center. It's all really up to you, and you have to sort of decide which route is best for you. And we really felt that the home birth route was the best, and I think that I definitely wouldn't have changed anything about it. It was perfect. It was just the way we had wanted, and I felt so comfortable throughout the whole birthing experience. There was never a moment in my head where I was like, oh my God, let's go to the hospital. Nope, it was, let's get home. I want to deliver at home in my own bed. Like, I don't want nurses and hospital people around me. But that's just my feelings. And I definitely 110% think that you can have an all-natural birth in a hospital. I think you totally can. You totally can do that. But you need to find the right healthcare provider in the hospital who's going to do that for you and is willing to wait and let your body do what it needs to do, and not just do a ton of interventions that are gonna prohibit you from having that all-natural birth. And all-natural birth, I'm meaning no drugs, no painkillers, no Pitocin, no C-section, no epidural, like none of that. It's just you doing everything. So there's no, like, not even Advil. I mean, that wouldn't touch it, but you know what I mean. I hope that this video really explained kind of why I got into home birth, and if you have any questions about it, like, please comment down below. I'll really appreciate that. And subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll definitely see you in more videos. Bye.